Have you ever wondered what happens when our loved ones grow older and the roles we once played for them begin to reverse? As we age, we face unexpected challenges, both physical and emotional, that can make us question what the future holds. This is the poignant journey of Grandpa Juan, an 80-year-old man who navigates his golden years with a sense of independence, dignity, and a heart full of wisdom. In this video, you'll discover how Grandpa Juan's search for comfort and belonging leads him to some heartbreaking realizations about family, aging, and the complexities of growing older. His emotional struggles reveal an important truth about how the elderly are treated, often unknowingly pushed aside as burdens, despite all they've given. But there's more. Juan's story takes a remarkable turn, as he finds an unexpected solution to his loneliness and financial struggles. By the end of this video, you'll learn the profound lesson that even in old age, we have the power to shape our destiny. This isn't just a tale of aging. It's about resilience, love, and the surprising ways we can overcome the challenges of later life. Stay tuned to the end for a heartwarming twist that might just change the way you see the elderly in your own life. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. At 70 years old, Grandpa Juan found himself in a moment of deep, almost sorrowful reflection, haunted by the many lives he had led and the many choices he had made throughout his long and storied existence. In his search for peace, he had tried living with his children, trusting that their care would offer him the comfort and security he so desperately craved. He had hired a caregiver, believing that professional help might be the answer to his loneliness and declining health. He even tried residing in a nursing home, hoping the structure and support of the facility would bring some semblance of purpose to his twilight years. Yet, despite these attempts, each experience left him feeling incomplete, disillusioned, and aching for something more profound, something that truly nourished his soul in the way he had longed for. There was an unspoken emptiness in his heart, a yearning for a life that wasn't just about survival, but about truly living, about finding joy and meaning in the days that remained to him. It was only after countless nights spent in contemplation, through the quiet passage of time and a twist of fate, that Grandpa Juan stumbled upon a living arrangement that finally spoke to his soul. It wasn't perfect, but it offered him the rare balance of comfort and autonomy he had so desperately craved. It was a space where he could breathe freely, where he didn't have to sacrifice his independence, yet still feel a sense of security. It wasn't the solution he had expected, but it was the one that healed him. Slowly and steadily, like the whisper of wind through the trees, gently but powerfully guiding him toward a new chapter in his life. It was in this newfound peace that Grandpa Juan embraced his golden years, his spirit finally at ease as he walked forward into the unknown, where he still resides, living with a sense of calm and fulfillment he had never known before. But the journey to this place of peace had not come easily. It was marked by a painful, heartbreaking realization of how fragile life could be. I turned 70 this year, and I look back on the years leading up to my 75th birthday with both fear and gratitude. You see, there was a time when my health took a drastic turn for the worse, and I found myself facing death more closely than I ever thought I would. Those were the years when I was fortunate enough to still have my beloved wife by my side. In those moments, I felt invincible, shielded from the harshness of life by our unbreakable bond. There was an unspoken promise between us, a promise to always care for each other, no matter the circumstances. When we went to the hospital together, we would laugh, make jokes, and find solace in each other's company, even when the pain was unbearable. Those were the moments when I knew, without a doubt, that I was never alone. But after she passed away, the world as I knew it fell apart. The warmth of her presence faded, and I was left to face the cold reality of my declining health alone. The hospital visits that once felt like shared experiences became solitary and overwhelming, each trip a battle I had to fight on my own. What once was a routine became a suffocating burden, one that weighed heavily on my spirit. My body grew weaker with each passing day, and I would drag myself to the hospital, struggling to make it through the long hours, the cold, sterile air a constant reminder of my frailty. After each visit, I would return home, my energy depleted, feeling as though I was slowly fading into nothingness, a mere shadow of the man I once was. Though I have a son and a daughter whom I love dearly, they, too, were caught in the whirlwind of their own lives, busy with their own families, their worries, their futures. And yet, out of a deep, enduring love for them, I couldn't bring myself to ask for their help. I feared becoming a burden, fearing that my frailty would only add to their stress. So I suffered in silence, pushing them away in my desire to protect them from the heavy weight of caring for me. In my heart, I believed that this was the right thing to do, that this was what love demanded. Ironically, my well-meaning sacrifice only led to the opposite of what I intended. My children, despite my resistance, ended up caring for me more than they should have. Each visit to the hospital was a reminder of just how much they still worried for me, just how much they still needed me, even as I was no longer the man I once was. Then, fate intervened once more in a way I never expected. It was a routine trip to the market that changed everything. A simple misstep, a fall that sent me sprawling to the ground, left me hospitalized with an injury that would take at least 6 months to heal. The doctor's words echoed in my ears, and my children's concern for my well-being grew even more. They suggested a new living arrangement. I would spend 3 months at my son's house and then 3 months at my daughter's. It was a plan designed to keep me close to them, to ensure I was never alone. But despite their best efforts, I couldn't shake the feeling of being a stranger in their lives. Their homes, though filled with love, felt foreign to me. There's a saying that deeply resonates with me. A father's home will always be the children's home, but the children's home will never be the father's home. It was a painful truth that I couldn't deny, no matter how much they tried to make me feel at home. No matter how warm their welcome, no matter how much they tried to make space for me in their lives, I longed for the comfort of my own space, the peace of my own home, my belongings, the quiet solitude that was mine and mine alone. I realized then, with heartbreaking clarity, that there is no place quite like home, and that my golden years would not be truly golden until I embraced a living arrangement that allowed me to reclaim that sense of belonging, that comfort, that peace. And so, after much searching, after much soul-searching, I found my way back to myself. It was not the life I expected, but it was the one that allowed me to live with purpose once more. In this new chapter of his life, Grandpa Juan has discovered a refuge, a sanctuary that offers not just a roof over his head, but a profound sense of autonomy that nourishes his soul. This place is more than just 4 walls and a roof. It is a rebirth of his spirit, a powerful reminder that even in the twilight years, one can carve out a life brimming with freedom, joy, and connection. For him, it represents a renewed hope, a place where his dignity can bloom once more, untouched by the judgments and assumptions that age so often brings. Here, he is free to live on his terms, a precious treasure that no amount of material comfort could ever replace. Yet, this sense of independence has not come without its trials. Living in his children's homes over the past several months has been an emotional journey, a painful revelation of just how deep the chasm of loneliness can be. While he is deeply grateful for their hospitality, the roof over his head, and the warmth they provide, an undeniable emptiness festers in his heart. Each day, he forces himself to accept that food and shelter are enough, but this truth rings hollow in the silence that surrounds him. The houses may be pristine and well-kept, but they are not his. They cannot replace the home he built, the life he once cherished, and the feeling of being truly seen. The absence of warmth, of true connection, cuts deeper than any physical discomfort. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Every meal is a painful reminder of his isolation, as he eats alone in his room while his children, gathered together in laughter, seem to exist in a world that is slipping further away from him. There is a bitter taste that lingers long after the food is gone, a sense that he is fading into the background of their lives, a mere spectator to the vibrant lives they lead. Their casual suggestions that he prepare his meals, as though he were just another member of the household, seem to him less like care and more like neglect. The bitterness in those moments is sharp, for it is not merely the physical act of eating alone that stings, but the deep, searing feeling that he is no longer a part of their shared world. To them, he is a relic, a figure from the past that no longer fits into the bright, fast-paced future they are rushing toward. And so, the emotional distance grows. His awkward attempts to bridge the gap during their conversations only intensify his sense of alienation. He knows his words often sound out of place, his thoughts fragmented. He is acutely aware of the generational divide, the weight of time pressing heavily on his every word. He longs for the days when life was simpler, when laughter and understanding were effortless. But now, those connections feel increasingly elusive, slipping through his fingers like sand. As his children continue to grow further away, his heart aches with the realization that no matter how hard he tries, he cannot seem to bridge the gap between himself and the family he once knew so well. He feels invisible, an outsider in his own home, a ghost among the living. After 6 long, soul-searching months spent in their homes, Grandpa Juan felt an overwhelming urge to return to his own space, the one place that still holds the echoes of his past, the cherished memories that define his life. His home, though small and humble, is a testament to his strength and resilience, a place where his autonomy and independence were once alive and well. But that deep yearning for the past has been cruelly tempered by the harsh realities of his body's decline. A recent leg injury has left him in almost constant pain, reminding him of every step of the fragility of his body and the limitations it now imposes on him. His mobility, once taken for granted, is now a distant memory, replaced by the constant ache of his muscles and joints. Living alone is not for the faint of heart. It brings with it a cascade of challenges that he could never have imagined in his younger years. Grocery shopping, once a simple task, has now become a monumental effort that leaves him physically drained and emotionally defeated. Every trip to the market is a reminder of his vulnerability, of the painful truth that his body is no longer able to carry out even the most basic tasks without great effort. By the time he drags himself back home, his legs are screaming in protest, his body drenched in sweat, a bitter reminder of his limitations. This is not the life he had envisioned for his golden years. The stark reality has forced him to make a painful decision: hiring a caregiver. The emotional weight of this choice is immense, for it means relying on someone else to do what he once could so easily manage himself. It is a decision that weighs heavily on his already fragile finances, a constant reminder that aging comes at a steep price. Paying the caregiver's monthly salary of €800 feels like swallowing a bitter pill, especially when his pension barely covers the essentials, and the guilt of relying on his children for support only adds to his inner turmoil. His children, who are already stretched thin with their own lives, contribute a meager €110 each month to help cover the cost, a reality that fills him with shame and sorrow. As he struggles to balance his pride and his reality, Grandpa Juan has learned to accept that his once abundant life is now reduced to surviving. Nutritious, well-balanced meals, once a part of his daily routine, now feel like an unattainable luxury. He has come to accept that being full is enough, that there is no room for extravagance when survival is the only concern. But the truth of this frugality stings, for it serves as a constant reminder of how far removed he has become from the comforts he once knew. The life he now leads is one of limitation, not choice, and the stark contrast to the life he once envisioned for himself is enough to break his spirit. Families who have the means to hire caregivers often create warm, welcoming spaces filled with nourishing meals that go beyond simply feeding the body. They soothe the soul. These families enjoy peace of mind, knowing that their loved ones are cared for in environments that offer comfort, support, and sustenance. Unfortunately, for me, this is a luxury I cannot afford. Every caregiver I've welcomed into my home has left within days, unable to adapt to what they consider to be an inadequate supply of food. They describe the meals as rabbit food, too small, too sparse, and lacking the energy-rich sustenance required to keep up with the grueling demands of their work. It feels like a cruel irony. Here I am, in need of help, yet unable to provide even the basic comfort of a meal that could satisfy someone else. To make matters worse, even the agencies that should support me hesitate to send anyone my way. They feel that the conditions I can offer are not sufficient for long-term satisfaction, adding yet another layer to the growing frustration and isolation I feel. The more I ponder this situation, the heavier my heart becomes. I find myself reluctantly entertaining the idea of a nursing home, something I had hoped to avoid for as long as possible. The thought of leaving my home, the place where I've built my life and memories, fills me with a profound sense of loss. Yet, deep down, I know that this might be the only way to secure the constant care I need. This realization stings. It's a painful acceptance of the distance that has slowly crept between myself and my children, a distance that now leaves me with no other choice but to ask my son to help me navigate this painful transition. The thought of burdening him with such a responsibility, as if his own life isn't complicated enough, weighs heavily on my soul. It feels like yet another unspoken defeat in a series of losses that have already taken too much from me. I long for warmth, for a sense of connection, yet the path of aging seems to be leading me into a future filled with unwelcomed compromises. When I finally found a nursing home, it was nothing like I had imagined. It was a far cry from the comfortable, well-equipped places that might offer a semblance of peace in one's final years. This place was cheap, yes, but that's where the positives ended. It lacked basic amenities that could have made the experience more bearable, and it was far from the type of home I had once dreamed of. Yet, there was a strange comfort in knowing that it was within my budget, that it was something I could afford without burdening my children. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I took solace in the small victories. With this decision, I relieved them of a financial strain, and that sense of duty gave me some peace. I chose to remain there, despite the unappealing conditions, because I knew the weight of their struggles. I wanted to lighten their load, to do something, anything, to make their lives easier, even if it meant sacrificing my comfort. But the reality of communal life in the nursing home soon overwhelmed me. As someone who had always cherished my freedom, the rigid, almost military structure of the facility felt stifling. I was suffocated by the lack of autonomy, the monotony of days that felt longer and longer, and the absence of the personal space I had always valued. Despite my best efforts to adapt, the environment never felt like it was meant for me. It was a constant battle between my desire for independence and the harsh reality of aging. After just a month, I found myself at a crossroads. I couldn't continue in a place that stripped me of my dignity and freedom. I decided to leave the nursing home and return to the comfort of my own home, where, at the very least, I could breathe a little easier and regain some semblance of control over my life. Just as I was beginning to adjust to the solitude of my own space, a small blessing arrived. An online grocery shopping service became available in my area, and with it came a new sense of relief. I asked my daughter to place an order for me every day, and the convenience of picking it up from a nearby store became my lifeline. The store was just steps from my apartment, a small oasis in a sea of daily struggles. The young couple who ran it were nothing short of angels. They noticed my difficulty walking and never hesitated to help me carry my groceries to the elevator. Over time, their simple acts of kindness grew into something more profound, a genuine friendship. Their warmth and compassion became the highlights of my days, a reminder that kindness still exists in the world, even in the smallest of gestures. It was a routine I cherished for 6 months, and while it brought some comfort, the harsh reality of aging lingered. The slow decline of my body was undeniable, and with it came an overwhelming sense of anxiety about the future. I knew that there would come a day when I could no longer live alone, when my independence would be nothing more than a distant memory. The thought of depending on others, of losing what little autonomy I had left, was a fear I couldn't easily shake. In those quiet moments, as I reflected on my life, I couldn't help but feel the weight of the passage of time and the inevitable changes it brings. Despite the support I had found in small acts of kindness, I was confronted by the undeniable truth that the path of aging is one fraught with challenges, loneliness, and the ever-present fear of becoming a burden. One quiet afternoon, as I made my way to the small local store to pick up my usual items, something unexpected happened. I found myself overhearing a young couple amid an intense argument. The sound of their voices, tinged with frustration and worry, made my heart ache with empathy as I stood in the aisle, trying not to intrude on their private moment. I stood there, frozen in place, silently absorbing the weight of their words. The air around them felt thick with the tension of financial struggles and unspoken fears, and I couldn't help but feel a deep connection to their plight, as if their struggle mirrored my own unspoken anxieties. The wife, her voice quivering with emotion, was passionately defending her decision to take over €100 from their limited family expenses to buy durian, a rare and exotic fruit, for their young child. Her words were not just about the fruit. They were a reflection of her desire to provide a fleeting moment of joy for her son in a world that often seemed unforgiving and harsh. I could hear the anguish in her voice, the fear that perhaps, just perhaps, she was making the wrong decision. But still, her love for her child pushed her to defend this choice, desperate to make her son happy even in the face of their struggles. It was a beautiful, heartbreaking kind of love, one that resonated deep within me. I felt a tightening in my chest, and I couldn't help but share her anguish, feeling the weight of her heartache. The husband, burdened by the weight of their mounting debts and financial uncertainty, countered her words sharply. His voice carried the tone of someone who had been pushed to the edge, someone who had reached a breaking point. He couldn't understand how they could justify such a purchase when every penny mattered, especially given their precarious situation. What would happen if something else went wrong? What if they couldn't pay for their daughter's school fees? His concerns were valid, grounded in a deep-seated worry for their future. But the wife, still unwavering, pushed back, explaining that their daughter had long dreamed of tasting the exotic fruit, and that a small indulgence, once every few years, was not a waste. It was a memory they could create, a moment of happiness in a world that often felt like it was filled with too much hardship. The conversation felt like a tug-of-war between two hearts, one that wanted to hold on to a fragile sense of joy, and one that was desperately trying to preserve their future. As I stood there, An overwhelming sense of empathy washed over me. It was as if I could feel the weight of their worries pressing against my own chest. Their argument wasn't just about money. It was about survival, about keeping hope alive, about finding a balance between the harsh realities of life and the small joys that make it worth living. It was a painful reminder of how fragile happiness can be, and how often we are forced to choose between our desires and our needs. I could hear echoes of my own worries in their voices, and it struck me just how universal their struggle was. It wasn't just about them, it was about all of us, trying to navigate the delicate dance between ambition and contentment, between survival and self-care. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Then, in that moment of shared vulnerability, something shifted within me. It was as if a spark of light flickered in my mind, illuminating a path that had been hidden in the shadows of uncertainty. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't stand by and let them continue to bear the weight of their worries alone. I knew I had to act, and the idea that formed in my mind felt so right, so clear, that I felt a surge of warmth in my chest. It was a solution that would help them and give me a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Without hesitation, I approached them, offering a proposal that I hoped would ease their burdens. I suggested that they come to my home every day to help with some essential tasks, washing clothes, tidying up my space, and preparing 2 simple meals in exchange for a steady income of €800 a month. The offer was not just about paying them. It was about creating a partnership, a sense of security that could help them breathe easier in a world that had been making every step feel like a struggle. I wasn't just offering them money. I was offering them an opportunity, a chance to alleviate some of the stress that had been weighing them down for so long. When I made the offer, I could see the hesitation in their eyes. There was disbelief, uncertainty, and a touch of pride. They were clearly reluctant to accept help from someone they saw as a friend. It was deeply moving to see how hard it was for them to take what I was offering. Their reluctance came not from a lack of gratitude, but from a sense of pride and dignity that made it hard for them to accept something they hadn't asked for. I could see the internal struggle in their eyes, and it struck me how much they had been carrying on their shoulders, how much they had been trying to protect, not just their family's future, but also their pride. It took time, but after gently reassuring them and emphasizing that I wanted to help, they agreed. The shift in their demeanor was almost palpable. The doubt in their eyes slowly gave way to something else, a flicker of hope, of possibility. That decision, that moment, was transformative. For me, it wasn't just about saving money by avoiding the high costs of hiring a caregiver or moving into a nursing home. It was about finding a way to connect with people, to offer help in a meaningful, authentic way. It was about discovering that, even in the latter years of my life, there was still room for kindness, for relationships that didn't depend on money but on mutual care and respect. For the young couple, it was a chance for stability, for a steady income that would allow them to feel less burdened by the constant worries of how to make ends meet. And for both of us, it was an opportunity to create a bond, a friendship that would grow deeper with time. In the years that followed, the couple became an integral part of my life. What started as a simple arrangement blossomed into something far more significant, something that transcended the confines of employer and employee. They were no longer just helpers. They were friends, companions in my golden years. Their care for me went beyond what was expected. Their presence in my home brought an energy and warmth that had been missing for so long. Living alone had often left me feeling isolated, but now, every day was filled with their laughter, their kindness, and their unwavering dedication. The simple tasks they did for me, washing clothes, tidying up, preparing meals, became a shared ritual, a daily reminder that we were all in this life together, that even in old age, companionship could thrive. And when I surprised them with a bonus of €3,600, a gesture of gratitude for their dedication, their reaction was one I will never forget. Their eyes widened with disbelief. Their faces broke into expressions of pure joy and gratitude. The magnitude of what I had offered them was not lost on them. They told me that the money would transform their lives, giving them a sense of security they had never known before. Their heartfelt words left an indelible mark on my soul. It was then that they shared with me their own dreams, that if they ever had the chance, they would care for other elderly people with the same love and commitment they had shown me. It was a promise of reciprocity, a cycle of kindness and care that would continue to spread, long after I was gone. In that moment, everything felt right. The bond we had formed wasn't just about a transaction. It was about a deep, human connection that transcended money, a connection that could never be measured by currency. I had helped them, yes, but they had also given me so much more. They had given me companionship, hope, and a sense of purpose that made my later years feel like a beautiful, fulfilling journey. And in return, they had been given not just financial stability but the gift of knowing that their lives had meaning, that their kindness, their dedication, had made a difference in someone else's life. As I look back on this journey, I am filled with gratitude. It's a reminder that even in our most vulnerable moments, there are opportunities to build bridges, to connect, and to make a difference in someone's life. The young couple who came into my life as strangers are now part of my family. And through this beautiful arrangement, we have created something that has filled both of our lives with joy, warmth, and a sense of fulfillment. Part 2. The Story of Don Jose. In this deeply emotional chapter, we are invited into the life of Don Jose, an 80-year-old man whose existence in his twilight years is marred by sorrow, struggles, and the agonizing loss of his autonomy. As he faces the relentless passage of time, the weight of his circumstances presses down on him every day. Yet he navigates his pain with quiet dignity and an inner strength that belies the crushing challenges he endures. His journey is not just a tale of personal loss, but a reflection of the universal fear that so many elderly people share. The fear of losing independence, of becoming invisible, of being cast aside in a world that no longer seems to care for them. For Don Jose, every day is a battle to hold on to what little dignity remains, to preserve his sense of self in the face of an unrelenting reality that threatens to take it all away. The thought of growing old is a deeply emotional one, but for Don Jose, it's tinged with overwhelming terror. To many, old age represents a time of rest, of reflection, of finally reaping the rewards of a long life. But for him, it has become something far more chilling, a reminder of his increasing vulnerability and dependence on others. The very essence of his existence, the things that defined him as a man, a provider, a protector, a father, is slipping away, leaving him in a constant state of mourning for the person he once was. The loss of independence is a cruel thief, stripping him not only of his physical abilities but of the core of his identity. The burden of his financial difficulties only deepens the emotional toll, as he realizes with devastating clarity that his dreams of a peaceful, secure retirement have been shattered beyond repair. "Let me tell you my story," Don Jose begins, his voice quivering with the weight of the years. "I am Don Jose, and this year I turn 80. 3 years ago, I lost the love of my life, my wife. The grief from her passing was a blow that left me breathless, and since then, the world has felt much colder and emptier. She had been my everything, my companion, my confidant, my strength. She was the one person who truly understood me, and who shared in all the struggles and joys of life. Losing her has left an irreparable hole in my heart, one that I have learned to carry, but never truly overcome. Since her death, I've been walking through this world alone, and it has been an unbearably lonely road." Don Jose pauses, his mind filled with the haunting memories of his wife's final days. "I have one daughter, a beautiful woman, whom I love deeply. She is my only family, and my heart aches for her every day. But her life has not been easy, and it breaks my soul to watch her carry burdens that no person should ever have to bear. Her husband, the man I thought would be her life partner, has turned out to be a cruel and unreliable shadow, whose presence in our home only brings pain. He is a man with no redeeming qualities, and it tears me apart to see how he treats my daughter. His behavior is not just insensitive, it is malicious, designed to break her spirit, to keep her trapped in a cycle of dependence and submission. She cannot escape, not because she doesn't want to, but because she is bound by the chains of his cruelty. Every time she tries to break free, he silences her with his abuse, knowing full well that there is no one to stop him. No man, no protector, to defend her. The anger in Don Jose's voice is palpable as he continues. "I see my daughter, now in her late 50s, caught in this toxic, unending cycle. She has never known a day where she could simply exist for herself, where her needs were put first, where her happiness was valued. She has spent her entire life giving to others, her husband and her son, and yet she receives nothing in return. Her heart, once full of hope and dreams, has been slowly crushed by the weight of her obligations, her selflessness, and the suffocating love of a man who has no regard for her well-being. I wish with all my heart that I could be the one to protect her, to help her escape from the man who has stolen her joy. But I am powerless. What can an old man, with hands that tremble and a body that no longer responds as it should, do to fight against such darkness? The pain in Don Jose's words is almost unbearable, yet his love for his daughter is undeniable, burning brighter than any hardship he has faced. He sighs deeply, then continues, "My grandson, the boy I watched grow up, is now a man in his 20s. But he is as powerless as I am to stop the madness in our home. The violence, the fear, the constant tension, it has stifled his ability to act, to defend his mother. I have seen him grow up in a home where love should have flourished, but instead, fear has poisoned everything. The years of watching his father mistreat his mother have left him paralyzed, unable to take the steps necessary to help her. And it kills me to know that the man who should have been there to protect her, the one person who might have stood up to his father, is now a young man who knows nothing but silence in the face of injustice. My daughter, who once had dreams, now has nothing but the hollow emptiness of a life unfulfilled, a life trapped in a prison of her own making, a prison built by the man she married." Don Jose's sorrow deepens as he recalls the events that followed the passing of his wife. "When my wife was alive, we were everything to each other. We were each other's strength, our mutual support system. Together, we endured the hardships of life, from financial troubles to health crises. We faced every challenge side by side. But since her death, everything has changed. The weight of this existence, this world without her, is more than I can bear. A year ago, I suffered a stroke that left me paralyzed on the right side of my body. The physical toll of that stroke was brutal, but the emotional toll, well, that has been just as devastating. The realization that I will never be the man I once was, that I will never be able to care for my daughter, to provide for her, to protect her, has crushed me in ways I can't fully describe. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me." His voice cracks, a raw vulnerability seeping through. "The stroke took so much from me. After months of rehabilitation, I came to terms with the fact that I would never regain full mobility. My dreams of living independently, of continuing to care for my family, were shattered. There are days when I feel like a shell of the person I used to be. I cry. Not only for the man I was, but for the life I had envisioned for my daughter, for the family I had dreamed of protecting. But all of that feels so far away now, like a distant memory. I can't help but feel a deep, searing sadness that I have failed my daughter, that I have failed myself." Don Jose's financial despair adds another layer of anguish to his already unbearable situation. "My pension, €250 a month, is a cruel joke. It's not enough to live on, let alone to pay for the kind of care I need. I've saved up about €800, but even that is nothing in the face of the rising costs of healthcare and necessities. How can I possibly survive on so little? How can I afford the care I need in my final years? The thought of being forced to live in a nursing home, of relying on strangers to care for me, is an unbearable reality I cannot accept. And yet, it seems to be the only option I have left. The pain of knowing that I will likely die in a home, far from the people I love, fills me with a crushing sense of hopelessness." As he reflects on his current situation, Don Jose is struck by the isolation that has consumed his life. "When I left the hospital, it was my grandson who came to pick me up. He has been a small light in my life, and I cherish every moment I spend with him. However, my daughter is overwhelmed by the weight of her responsibilities. She can't help me. She's trapped in a cycle of caring for her husband, who demands more from her than she can give. I try not to burden her, but every day, I feel myself becoming more and more dependent on others. I have no choice but to accept help from my grandson, who orders my food online, and brings me the simplest comforts that have become lifelines. I sent him a few euros, but I hate asking for help. Every time he places an order for me, I feel a deep sense of shame, a reminder of everything I have lost. My front door is always open, but I can never truly let go of the sadness that fills my home. I can't help but wonder if my daughter will ever have a life of her own, if she will ever be free from the weight of this family, from the suffocating love that only brings her pain." This chapter is not just about Don Jose. It is a story of profound human suffering, love, and resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity. It is a reminder that aging is not just a process of growing older. It is a journey filled with losses, heartbreaks, and deep emotional scars that no one truly understands until they have lived it. Don Jose's tale is a powerful testament to the courage and the enduring strength of the human spirit, even when faced with insurmountable odds. "My grandson would visit me, but only occasionally. and though I appreciated every moment he spared to help me with small, seemingly simple tasks, emptying the bathroom, assisting me with bathing, or taking out the trash, there was something in the air that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't the words he said, but the silences between them, the unspoken weight that seemed to grow with each passing visit. I tried not to notice, tried to convince myself that it was just the exhaustion of his busy life catching up with him. But the truth was becoming impossible to deny. His visits were fewer, and when he did come, his smile no longer reached his eyes the way it once had. I could sense that something was amiss, a quiet frustration brewing beneath the surface, one that he could no longer keep hidden. Then one day, his words broke through the fragile barrier of denial I had so carefully constructed. He looked at me, his face torn between guilt and something else, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. "Grandma," he said, his voice thick with hesitation, "I barely have any free time anymore. I'm afraid. I'm afraid my girlfriend might leave me if she finds out how much this is costing me, how much I have to do for you." The impact of those words was like a dagger to my chest. It felt as though the air had been sucked from the room, and I couldn't breathe. His honesty, so raw and painful, echoed in the silence that followed. I looked into his eyes, and it broke me to see the sorrow and confusion there. In those moments, I saw the struggle of a young man torn between love and responsibility, between his dreams and the burden he felt he was carrying for me. And though it hurt me more than I could ever put into words, I knew he was right. Deep down, I knew I was asking too much of him. His life was just beginning. He had so many dreams, so many plans. His time should have been filled with laughter, love, and the freedom to explore the world without worrying about the weight of his grandmother's needs. I couldn't, and wouldn't, allow myself to be the thing that kept him from finding his happiness. But as much as I understood, as much as I wanted him to be free, the truth hurt so deeply that I wasn't sure how to bear it. The idea that I was standing in the way of his future, his happiness, was unbearable. My heart ached with a sorrow so profound it seemed to echo through every fiber of my being. The guilt twisted inside me, a heavy knot that I couldn't untie. I had never wanted to be a burden to anyone, let alone the person I loved most in this world. And yet, here I was, doing exactly that. As the days passed, I found myself confronting a painful reality. The aging process isn't kind to anyone, especially when you don't have the means to afford the necessary care. I had spent countless hours lying awake at night, staring into the dark, trying to figure out how I could continue living with dignity. I learned early on that the cost of getting older can be crippling, especially when it comes to the services we so desperately need as we grow frail. Nursing homes, those cold, impersonal places, come with a hefty price tag, at least €400 a month. My pension, a modest sum that barely covers my most basic needs, couldn't even scratch the surface of that amount. Even the idea of hiring a caregiver was nothing more than a pipe dream. The wages for such care were simply out of my reach. My heart grew heavier with each passing day as I thought about what would happen to me when I couldn't manage on my own anymore. But one night, after what felt like a lifetime of sleepless hours spent agonizing over my future, something miraculous happened. I stumbled upon a solution. It wasn't grand or perfect, but it was a possibility. It was a way forward, a lifeline that didn't require my grandson to carry the weight of my care on his own. It was as though the heavens had opened, and for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. I felt peace seep into my soul, something I hadn't felt in a long time. The discovery didn't solve everything, but it gave me something priceless, the chance to rest. For the first time in what seemed like an eternity, I felt my worries lift, even if just for a moment. I could finally imagine a future where I wasn't a constant source of stress for the ones I loved. It was a small comfort, but in that moment, it was everything. The next day, the weekend came as if it were a beacon of light after a storm. It was my chance to breathe, to escape the suffocating anxiety that had gripped me for so long. The morning sunlight, soft and golden, filtered through the curtains, and I felt a stirring in my heart. I couldn't explain it, but I knew I had to reach out to my grandson. It wasn't just a desire for his company. It was something more profound. I needed him to understand, to see me not as a burden, but as someone who loved him deeply and wanted the best for his life. I picked up the phone without a second thought, my voice trembling with a mix of hope and urgency. "Come, please," I pleaded. "I need to talk to you. It's important." He hesitated, as I expected he would, his life full of obligations and pressures that often kept him away. "I have things to do, Grandma," he said, his voice tinged with regret. But I could hear it, the hesitation, the pull of my words, the urgency in my voice. Finally, he agreed to come. When he walked through the door, relief flooded my chest like a wave. I was ready. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I needed to make him understand, to lay my heart bare and share my thoughts. I invited him to sit beside me on my bed, the place where so many memories had been made, both good and bad. It was here, in this sacred space, that we would decide our future. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I spoke, each word heavy with emotion. I presented him with two options. The first, though a difficult one to even consider, was clear: sell the house. The house that had been our home for generations, the place where memories had been made, laughter shared, tears shed. The proceeds from the sale would allow me to enter a nursing home, a place where the warmth of family would be replaced by cold, indifferent strangers. The thought of it was like a knife to my soul. The second option held a sliver of hope. It was simple, but powerful. Transfer ownership of the house to him in exchange for his promise to live with me, to care for me, to be my family as I grew older. It wasn't about him taking on the weight of my care indefinitely. It was about him taking part in a shared life, in a future that was ours, together. I told him about my modest savings, 800 euros, and how I could contribute to the household. But more than that, I emphasized that this wasn't about his responsibility to care for me, but about us creating a life that reflected the understanding of the realities we both faced. I knew how difficult it was for someone his age to take on such a burden, and I didn't expect him to do it alone. That's why I had come up with a plan to hire a part-time caregiver who would help with the essential tasks that would give me some independence. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, things that would make living together manageable. My pension of 250 euros could easily cover the caregiver's monthly salary of 140 euros. The rest, I believed, could be filled with the kind of quiet joy that comes from shared experiences, from family, from love. To my overwhelming surprise and relief, my grandson embraced the idea. He looked at me with eyes full of warmth and acceptance, telling me how much he was willing to make this work. He shared how difficult it was to live with his father, whose temperament was often rough and unforgiving, and I understood, more than ever, the need for peace, for a place where both of us could find comfort and joy. We agreed that living together would not only be a solution but an opportunity to rebuild the bond between us, to create a home that could nurture both our hearts. The next day, he arrived with the caregiver he had found, a kind woman through an agency, someone I could trust to help with the basics. When I paid her a modest salary, I felt a profound sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I was no longer alone, no longer overwhelmed by the fear of what would happen to me. My grandson had given me more than I could ever express in words. He had given me a chance to live my final years with dignity, with peace, and with love. Together, we had created something beautiful. Something that was built not on obligation, but on the understanding that we needed each other. And for the first time in years, I felt truly blessed. Each morning, her work would begin at 9 a.m., a quiet yet unwavering dedication to making our home a place of comfort and security. She would tirelessly tend to the house, wash my clothes with tender care, and prepare lunch, knowing that these simple acts of service were not just tasks, but expressions of love. Afterward, she would leave to take care of her own life, but her presence lingered in every corner, like a soft, comforting presence that I could always rely on. As the afternoon arrived, she would return, as if by instinct, to help with dinner preparation and the cleaning, ensuring that our home, my sanctuary, remained a place of warmth and care. In those moments, my heart would swell with gratitude, knowing that my grandson and the caregiver worked together to create an environment that radiated love, nurturing, and support. This new arrangement, though simple, filled me with a profound sense of peace and contentment. I trusted my grandson and the caregiver deeply, knowing that they would continue to build a welcoming atmosphere where love would blossom, and our lives would be enriched by the shared connection. With each passing day, the beauty of this chapter in our lives unfolded before me, like a new chapter in a book that was better than anything I could have ever imagined. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. I have been careful and thoughtful with my resources, providing the caregiver with 60 euros each month for meals. I ensure that any shortfall or remaining funds are dealt with separately, keeping everything in balance. This arrangement has worked beautifully for me, a testament to the care and foresight I have put into every aspect of my life. There's something deeply satisfying in knowing that, even with my modest eating habits, eating only 2 meals a day and rarely indulging in meats or sides, the €70 I set aside are more than enough to cover my needs. The caregiver, with a heart full of kindness, often returns some euros at the end of each month, a small but meaningful gesture that fills me with appreciation. I am truly fortunate to have my grandson living with me now, bringing with him a warmth and joy that fills every room. Together, we've made repairs to the house, and it has transformed into a more comfortable, inviting space for us all. What truly fills my heart with joy, however, is seeing the harmony between the caregiver, my grandson, and my granddaughter. Their interactions are a beautiful testament to the power of family unity. The bonds we share are stronger than ever, and I can see how much they value each other, a precious gift that enriches my life beyond measure. Every day, I feel deeply satisfied, at peace, and overwhelmingly grateful for the lifestyle I have created. Through careful planning, I have crafted a life where I can enjoy the simplicity of old age, with minimal expenses and the comfort of knowing I can save more than €60 for my monthly pension. The sense of financial security I feel is something I hold close to my heart. It's a gift I never take for granted. I am a firm believer that elderly people, no matter their financial background, can create living arrangements that suit their needs, as long as they are willing to seek out solutions. It is our right to live comfortably, with dignity, and to face the later years of life without suffering. Human nature can often be practical, even selfish, and it pains me to see how even the strongest relationships, like those between siblings, can fray under life's pressures. This reality is a constant reminder of the importance of safety nets, especially for the elderly. These safety nets can prevent unnecessary suffering and provide the peace of mind that we all deserve in our later years. I know this truth deeply. Regardless of how loving our children may be, we must all have an emergency fund. It's a small yet invaluable source of comfort in moments of hardship, providing a quiet but undeniable sense of security when the world feels uncertain. A bank transfer, a small amount set aside for a rainy day, can make all the difference, easing the burden of stress and providing relief when it seems like there is no other way out. As we age, we may long for the care and devotion of our children, but it's crucial to recognize that they too carry burdens, and sometimes they are unable to give us the support we desire. The demands we place on them, without understanding their struggles, can breed resentment and tension. It's a difficult balance, but one that, if approached with empathy and understanding, can help preserve the relationships we hold dear, while also ensuring that we are not left feeling vulnerable and unprotected. As we reflect on the lessons shared today, I hope you've gained a deeper understanding of the power of careful planning, love, and the importance of creating a life that's not only comfortable but filled with warmth, family, and security. Life may bring its challenges, but it's how we approach them, with intention and love, that truly makes a difference in our later years. So, what have you learned so far? What insight or piece of wisdom will you carry with you and put into practice? I'd love to hear from you. Please share in the comments below one thing you've learned from this video that you plan to incorporate into your own life. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thank you for being a part of our community, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.